If you are a self-improvement junkie like me, chances are you are consuming too much content on the internet, especially about self-improvement. And you may be watching a lot of videos or reading on the web. And in this video, I want to make you aware that this can be problematic, and too much content without action can be detrimental to your progress. And this topic is very personal to me also, because I also fell into this trap, and even until recently I was consuming a bunch of self-improvement content. And the thing is that for your mind is very rewarding. I mean, consuming this type of content makes you feel good, like you are making progress, but it's a trap. You have to become aware of that. And personally, I always been like someone that loves to think and theorize and learning new things. I think that was one of my passions in life, to learn new stuff. But in self-improvement, especially, if we want to increase the quality of our lives, if we want to self-actualize, we need to put the ideas into practice. And it's very easy to fall into the trap of just acquiring knowledge but not embodied it. So just to give a personal story, when I started to lift weights, that was several years ago when I started, like, for the first time. Then I stopped at some point. But anyways, when I start looking for information, because when you want to start lifting weights, and if you don't know what to do, which was my case, you will want to find a starting routine, like a beginner's routine, right? And if you have tried this in the past, or if you are doing this right now, you will know that there is so much information out there. There are so many routines. On the one hand, there are routines that are like full body 3 times a week. On the other hand, there are like split routines 6 days a week, and everything in between. So it can be quite overwhelming for newbies like me back then. And it's very easy to spend a lot of time like thinking or wondering or looking on Reddit and seeing what's the best routine, and seeing the debate between the 3 times a week full body with the split bros from 6 days a week. And really there is a lot of, I mean, you can find science that justify or that validates each one of them. And you can spend quite amount of time researching and being in a state of what do I do, like of uncertainty. So the thing is that really it doesn't matter. Just pick anything that, I mean, in the case of a routine, I mean, the best thing is just pick any routine that you find compelling and start doing it. The thing is that when you are a beginner, really anything will work. And the point of this video is not just to be reckless and start going to the gym without any preparation, but don't overspend too much time doing the research, because again, this can be applied to any skill you want to acquire in life. But for the example of the gym, that I always like to do because it's very simple but can be generalized to all aspects of your life, almost all aspects of your life, is that, I mean, if you are going to lift weight for a long time, you will learn a lot of information along the way. So it's very easy for us to get overwhelmed with so much information and get into the trap of not knowing what routine to choose or what's the best routine for beginners. And the thing is that the best routine for beginners is any routine, and just be consistent with it. And probably you have heard that, but anyways, you still may be a little bit stubborn like me and thinking, but that's bullshit. I mean, I want the best routine. But really, when you are a beginner, anything will work almost, as soon as you are doing it with proper form and you don't injure yourself. So just become aware of that your mind will make you procrastinate and delay your action. And again, I don't know, I'm not a scientist, but in my experience, the reason why this happens, you may wonder, okay, why this is the case. I mean, if we want to improve ourselves, why the mind plays us those tricks? And I think that the reason of that is that the mind and your body and your mind really don't want to change. There is this concept in biology called homeostasis. You have biology class, if you remember this. And in biology, this concept means that you are trying, your body and also your mind is trying to keep an equilibrium, right? Because otherwise you couldn't survive. I mean, there are so many mechanisms in your body and in your mind that are running 24/7, and we are not even aware of them. And homeostasis is very important to keep us alive. So for survival is key. However, if we want to grow physically or mentally, especially mentally, you need to challenge this resistance to change. And that's pretty normal. I mean, resistance is a natural survival mechanism, and your mind also wants to, in a sense, avoid you, doesn't want you to change. Even though you may want to change, but your mind is always trying to protect your old self, in a sense. Because as you start to go into the gym, for example, or anything, or let's say you also may want to implement a new system in your life, your belief may change, your identity may change, and your mind wants to protect you, in a sense, from that. I mean, it's not really a protection, because it's like it's trying to protect the old self, but it's not wise enough, in a sense, yourself to realize that you need to change, you need to grow in order to improve yourself. So, and it's very easy for ourselves to believe whatever our minds is telling us. So you have to become very aware that your mind can be quite tricky. I think I will discuss a lot about how the mind really tricks us, but this is just an example. So you have to become aware of that, and taking action can be the best idea instead of delaying it. Because the thing is that, again, you don't know what the perfect routine is in the case of the gym, or any skill you are learning. There are many different methods, and the thing is that when you are just starting, you don't know what's the best method. You cannot know it. I mean, someone may tell you this, but in your experience, you really don't know. And the best way to know that is just trying and see, okay, if it works or it doesn't work. And if it works, then you can continue doing. Then you will, along the way, again, you will learn new skills, and you will be able to manipulate those variables better. If it doesn't work, you can try a new one. I mean, after all, there are so many routines out there that there are many, but the basics are more or less similar. I mean, there is a finite number of big different routines you can try, or methods. So that's the main point of this video. I don't want to make it too long, because the idea is pretty simple, but let me try to convince you about this, and that, again, I fell into this trap many times in my past, and still until recently I would say that still my mind loves to play tricks on me. And for example, for writing this newsletter, there is a book that also is very relatable to this topic. It's called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. And I read this book a couple of years ago. I don't remember exactly when, but this book is all about resistance. Again, in this case, he is a writer, so he talks about his how he faces resistance to write constantly. and that you need to overcome this resistance to, well, to write, but it can be applied to anything in your life, really. Your mind will want to avoid you to do what you have to do, but you have to be wise enough and take action. And essentially that's the idea of the book. I mean, the book, I don't remember, it's like 200 something pages, but so I could have started to read the book again to get some ideas, but I realized pretty quickly that this wouldn't be the best idea. First, because again, the book can be summarized in this essentially, and then there are a lot of stories and anecdotes and ideas to complement. But I mean, if you think, most of self-help books are like 200, 300 pages, but could be summarized in like a couple of pages. But the point to make it more interesting, more sellable also, that they fill a bunch of stories, and that's what I'm doing now, for example. But I mean, that's not bad actually. I think it's a good idea to relate, because just the facts, the cold facts, I mean, I could just list a bunch of principles, but probably you wouldn't be able to apply them because you won't be convinced. So by telling stories and anecdotes about how I overcame resistance, you can learn from that. So that's the point of those videos, to try to tell stories and connecting the dots and taking the principle from there, from those stories. So again, I could have read the books, but I realized, you know what, I will just start writing about my direct experiences and take the main point from there for writing this newsletter. And that's what I did. And then I fortunately I had the highlights, because I took some highlights from this book. So I went through the highlights, and I had a look at them. It took me like 10 minutes to go through them and see if there was some idea that I could add to this newsletter. So that's it. That's how I overcame resistance. So that's just to give you an example that in this situation you always can like try to learn more or acquire more theory, or just start doing whatever you have to do. And again, here, don't think that I'm telling you do not consume information. I mean, I consume quite a bit of information, but lately I'm becoming more aware, and I'm consuming content in a more conscious way, in the sense that when I want to consume something, I want to pay my attention there and take notes and all the stuff. While not so long ago, I used to be listening to stuff all the time, and again, your mind like gets like reward. You feel like good by listening to these cool facts, but the thing is that there is a thing of too much content, and but anyways, you need the principles. I mean, and that's why I'm creating those videos, and this is like a sort of principle that can be applied. It's like a meta principle in a sense. So again, I love this concept of the map is not the territory. So in this case, let's say that the territory is our bodies and our minds. I mean, we want to grow those two, right? So in order to get to the territory, we need to acquire the maps, and the maps are those principles that we are discussing here. So you need the maps, of course, in order to reach the territory. Of course, you could try to go there to asking people along the way and just being like reckless, but that wouldn't be a very wise idea. I mean, that's why there is so much good information out there, but at some point can become quite problematic to know what are the good maps, and that's the problem we have now. There is too many maps out there. So the maps are important, and that's why I'm recording those videos, because I'm writing the newsletters, because the maps are fundamental. if you don't have the right maps, you will go to a wrong place, right? Or you may get lost for a good amount of time. And if you are like in your early 20s, I mean, it could be good if you don't, if you are wise enough and you realize that what are the good principles, and you don't waste a bunch of time as I did, for example, during my 20s. So again, the maps are fundamental, and okay, choosing the right maps is something that you have to realize along the way. You don't know what the good maps are. That's the thing. But again, you have a life, and I guess that for me, like, living a good life is trying to realize by yourself what are those good maps and implementing them, and failing and iterating. So, but the maps by themselves won't get you anywhere, right? I mean, you may have the perfect map with all the details, instructions by step to reach to your destination, but you need to go there. You need to move your ass. So, and the thing is, but we are quite lazy, and we enjoy like reading the maps and mentally masturbate with the maps. Oh yeah, and imagining all the cool stuff. But the thing is that you can be in the place. I mean, the photos of a beautiful mountain or a beautiful park will never be the park, will never be the mountain. And what I'm trying to tell you is that you can be there, you can experience those beautiful places. It's not just about reading or listening or believing about them. This work is not about believing whatever any teacher or I am telling you. This work is about, okay, taking this and seeing by yourself if this is true or not. And yeah, that's it. And again, too much theoretical knowledge not only can be a waste of time, but also can be detrimental. And let me give you an example that's what happened to me in the past. I mean, I fell into this trap like quite a lot in my 20s. So, for example, I mean, I've been doing like self-improvement for around 10 years, with on and off, with periods where I've been like pretty consistent and periods where not so much. And there is this channel that I really like. It's called actualize.org, and definitely if you have watched this channel, there is some influence from there. I mean, I think it was one of the best channels that exists out there. And there was a time where I was like very into the listening every week, like religiously, those videos, and they're quite long and quite technical. So they talk about very deep, advanced stuff, I mean, very different topics about spirituality and like understanding reality. I mean, it's pretty deep. So, and the thing is that, I mean, yeah, I really love to understand this concept. I mean, I up to this day, I still enjoy getting these cool ideas. I mean, every week my mind was blown by these concepts. But again, the thing is that it's very easy to fall into the trap of just consuming the content and not doing anything with it. And yeah, I mean, I could talk about these things, but I don't really know them. And there is a difference between knowing like theoretically and truly understanding them. And really, for even for those very advanced concepts, it doesn't do anything good to know them. You really need to embody them. And that's what happened to me, that I was a little bit deluded, thinking that I knew, that I really understood those concepts, but in reality it's just concept. And I think that a lot of people there in this, also in the channel, that I think, I mean, if you look at the comments, there is a lot of people that also are into this trap, and I think it's pretty common, but you can also see this in all big self-improvement channels, that there is a lot of people that are like, they say things like dogma, like that's the way things are, but they're like pretty stupid. They really don't think by themselves, and they haven't put the things into practice. And so I don't want you to become like cheap and talk like a parrot, repeat whatever the teachers are telling you. You really need to check by yourself what they're trying to say, if this is true or not. So my mind, of course, did evolve during this period. I mean, again, just having the concepts, if you those concepts were new to you, really can reshape your mind in such a way that even if you don't maybe do a lot of exercises or put the things into practice, just becoming aware of those concepts can change the way you think and the way you act. So again, the concepts are super important, are necessary. Without those principles, my life would be completely different. I mean, I think myself like 10 years ago, and I'm a completely different person. And that's what I find fascinating about the mind, is that, I mean, the body can grow so much. After a certain point, you don't grow in height, and yeah, you can grow muscle, but there is so much muscle you can gain, while your mind has almost an unlimited potential. We really don't know what the limits of our mind are, really, and I'm super excited about this. So I will talk a lot about how to jailbreak your mind in the future. I think that's one of the points I want to focus, and those principles hopefully can do the first step to just open you to the possibility that there is way more of what you may believe is possible. So again, getting the concept is good, but without like massive execution, there will be just cool concepts, and you could be, and I could have been way more efficient if I focus more on the basics very hard, and then I could start grasping the more advanced concepts. But that's life. I mean, we need to learn from our mistakes, and I hope that you are wise enough and you can learn from my mistakes and mistakes of others, so that you don't repeat them, because that's what wisdom is, to see in ahead what's the right decision. But again, this takes a lot of practice and failing. That's fine. So again, just to start to wrapping up, I don't want to make this video too long because there isn't too much to say. But if you are starting like a new project or you want to improve your life, you may feel overwhelmed with so many options, and you may be wanting to choose the best method available. You don't want to waste your time, right? I mean, that's completely understandable. But again, you can look at my previous video where I talk about happiness, about that's equal to solving your own problems. But there is a part there where I mentioned that when you want to start a big project in your life, or you change something, it's a good idea to start small. Okay, so you can watch it for more details, but starting small is always a good idea, because when you are just starting, you really don't know where this path will end. And if you start somewhere and you may realize what things work and what things doesn't work, is a much better way to learn than just waiting for the perfect idea, because really the perfect idea doesn't exist. And for example, in this project, I mean, I'm starting this newsletter and those videos, and at this stage I'm just focusing on creating a bunch of videos and a bunch of newsletters, so to have like a base repository of content. And I really am focusing just on creating the content and trying to make it a little bit better every time. I'm not focusing yet at growing this, because again, I don't have enough content to, I mean, I could start also doing that, but my time is quite limited right now. I'm not doing this full time, so I need to be very strategic about what should I focus on. And again, I didn't know how to write newsletters, I didn't know how to record videos and doing them well, and still I'm working on that, because this is an endeavor that will take a while to master, and probably it could take, I mean, a lot of years to become good at it. But anyways, I know that every time I'm recording, I'm getting a little bit better every time and feeling more confident and more comfortable. But anyways, I mean, the way I'm speaking to you now is the way I talk in real life. I mean, it's not that different. But anyways, still, to be able to think in a coherent way without getting stuck too much, and not and try to speak clearly, because I tend to speak very fast, so I had to become aware of myself. But you see, that now I'm focusing on just creating good content, or trying to create good content, or better content. And at some point, I will start to think about growing this audience and make this a business. So one step at a time is better, and start somewhere. And a couple, I mean, one or 2 months ago, I didn't know anything about this, or if this could be possible. But now I can see that ahead, and I can see that there are several options. So, but you don't know this until you start doing it. So that's why start doing it and stop procrastinating. For me, I think it's such a powerful concept that's simple, because again, it's not any idea. It's just start applying this and stop wasting or procrastinating, because acting is what will give you the results eventually. I mean, again, you need the idea, but once you have the idea, there isn't too much to think about it. So now you may be asking, okay, but shouldn't spend more time looking for the optimal method? I mean, again, that was the usual objection, and what I always thought in the past, like, shouldn't just look and be completely convinced that this is the right routine or the method. I mean, you don't want to waste time, right? But you have to realize that that's just bullshit. I mean, again, it's your mind is tricking you. And I'm telling you that your mind is gonna trick you, because it doesn't want to change. And you don't know what the best routine is. I mean, there are people that, like, for example, in the gym, like a more compound routine works better, and there are people that work best with more isolation type exercises. And also depends on what do you want. Do you want to focus on strength? Do you want to focus on bodybuilding? I mean, it all depends on what your objectives are. And the people on Reddit or on the forums don't know you, so really it's something that you have to figure out by yourself. So, and try to take the right decisions. So you have to start now with something. Don't overthink too much, and you will figure out over time how to improve, because again, you don't know until you start doing it. So don't go and read another book or watch more YouTube videos about whatever you are trying to start. Just start it and figure out with time what's best. So again, you have to pick something reasonable. I mean, don't just be stupid and start going to the gym without knowing what the hell you are doing. Just pick a routine, learn the exercises, go on YouTube and see how they are performed safely, and that's it. I mean, there isn't too much to do. It's not that complicated. But again, our minds try to create stories to bullshit ourselves. So be careful. And for me, that's new learning. I mean, even if you realize, I mean, you pick a routine and you see the stretch that doesn't work, just throw it away, choose a different one, and that's it. That's learning, knowing what works and what doesn't. So that's it. And subscribe. I have this newsletter, and you can subscribe to it, and you will get every week the text version of this. I try to make it short, even half an hour. When start speaking, it's difficult to stop. But anyways, also I get more practice. So again, this principle is more action oriented. Most of my principles are more theoretical, but anyways, I think that it's important to have this concept in your mind. And probably you will fail, you will procrastinate, that's fine, but at some point you have to take action, and the sooner the better. So I hope that you can appreciate those principles and see where this is leading. I mean, I want to construct a sort of basic repository of ideas that if you implement them, and over the next 5 to 10 years, this really will change and reshape your mind. So stay in touch and see you in the next episode. That's all for today.